Peace and much love. Welcome back, brothers and sisters. Brother Sanchez back with some more revelations and eye-openers. And today is a continuation of some of my greater work where I reveal Freemasonic symbolism. With that being said, if you haven't saw my previous video, Secrets Reveal What the Masons Are Hiding, Ancient Cosmology, I suggest you definitely check out that video. It has over 250,000 views, and it lays the groundwork for what I'm about to talk about now. As we talk about Masonic cosmology in relation to ancient symbolism, ancient cosmology, sacred geometry, and the ancient cosmic mother or great mother goddess, which is also one of the oldest deities on earth. How does all of this relate to Freemason? Well, today begins the first video of a series of videos where I'm going to be giving us more deep revelations about this secret society. You see, a secret society don't care about people making videos talking about secret societies. You're only a threat when you reveal the secrets. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing in these next series of videos. A lot of this may go over many of you guys' heads if you're not familiar with a lot of my early work. So again, I recommend that if you haven't checked it out already. But for the rest of us, we're going to hop right into the advanced hidden knowledge of the powers that shouldn't be. Now, many of us are used to YouTube videos that explain to us that everyone in a position of power and popularity is linked to some sort of secret society or are indeed themselves a Mason. Now, when we say Mason, this is one society or one group, which has many divisions of factors within itself. For example, Prince Hall and Scottish Rite. This one group is not divided. It's a united group with one goal. Though it have different fashions that may appear divided, it's still one group that benefits one hierarchy and one power. And this group have one mission, which consists of many objectives. When we talk about Masons, a lot of what we call fraternities and secret societies are forms of Masonry. We must not get that twisted. But who are the Masons? Who are these secretive groups, and what are they hiding? Most of us who are past all of the hand gestures and the many celebrities and people in power, we know that most of our higher ups are Masons. We know that every industry, when we talk Hollywood, athletics, medical, law enforcement, politics, is one big matrix controlled by this one big group of secret societies that exist as a collective cabal, and they have a collective effort against us all. Now, as I said, most of us who've advanced past the level of research where we're just looking at hand gestures and handshakes, not to say that that doesn't further confirm this secret society, but there's another level of communication amongst Masons. And there's another level of knowledge that you will be getting today, which will bring forth a new level of understanding and overstanding. You see, Masons are speaking to us all the time, and everything we do is ritual. This is known by most beginner Masons. There's a language that's been spoken on top of the language that you speak, and there's always a deeper meaning than the one that's on the surface. Knowing that there's multiple meanings to one thing will help you decode the matrix that the Masons create. Understand that the loudest things that are spoken by Masons are those things that don't require words at all. You see, throughout history, Masons as well as ancients have spoken with symbolism. Symbolism was the earliest form of glyph or alphabet. Before we even had letters, we had images or symbols. They teach us that we've gotten so smart over time, but I would like to say as man de-evolved, the symbol became distorted with the text. And now we need millions of letters to spell words that may have many millions of meanings to describe a symbol that was really worth 1,000 words. We say so much that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but think about this. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, a symbol is worth 1,000,000 pictures. So today we're going to deal with sacred geometry, and we know that symbolism is what shroud these societies in secrecy, because it's no different than you not knowing how to speak French and entering a place where a lot of people were speaking French to hide their message from you. You will feel a little uncomfortable. Well, that's exactly what's happened every time you turn on your TV, every time you go in your grocery store, every symbol, these clothing brands, every logo, everything around you is communication. But the people that are communicating right above your head. Today's video is further attempts by me, Brother Sanchez, to help you see the way that the so-called elite communicate and interpret the one universal message as it relates to the cosmos, as well as to the human mental, physical, and spiritual journey. We all know that the people in power are very hideous, and that the things I just mentioned are hidden from the masses to keep us disconnected from ourselves. But today we get closer to ourselves by revealing those things hidden in the occult via symbolism. You see, symbolism speaks to the subconscious. Symbolism don't deal with words or spelling. Symbolism deals with what is and what has always been, even though these words or letters may interpret what has always been in many different ways to distort the universal truth. This universal truth has been hidden for so long by this group of elite men because they only rule by dividing and conquering the masses. And part of you understanding how this all was achieved is realizing that what we call Masons are one part of the spectrum, and at the top of this pyramid is a group of royal families, and pretty much everyone is a Mason. A Mason is a general word used to describe anyone that's part of the club. So even if you're just a Alpha Kappa Alpha, or you're in a fraternity in college, you're a Mason. You just don't know it yet. And all of these initiation groups are just like preschool introductions to Freemasonry, and they all are controlled by the brothers of the craft. Now, Freemason is older than many of us know. And what is it? It is a form of secrecy, a brotherhood that's created to control the masses out of secrecy. Division is seated in secrecy, and those who run this earth, the controllers of this matrix, are hidden. Even the people that's presented in front of you who you think run the earth, such as presidents and etc., are just puppets, and the real power is hidden. So when we talk secret society, is literally that. But we need to understand through the symbolism that these societies speak with what exactly is hidden to achieve this divide and conquer. So most of us are very familiar with ancient cosmology, and one word we use very often when having a dialogue about ancient cosmology is the word plane. We also use the word arch or dome or firmament. Now, the words arch and plane are synonymous with square and compass, or compass and square. When we deal with the Masonic square and compass, it's all dealing with cosmology, as above, so below. The compass that we actually use to migrate and travel to and fro within the cosmos is actually a miniature representation of the macrocosmos itself. All compasses point to the center. This center is very, very important. For those who don't know the significance of this center and the North Pole and magnetism, please catch up. Polaris is the stationary North Star. The sun and moon make their circuit around the center. But staying on topic with the arch and the plane, I just wanted to refamiliarize everyone with how this parallels Masonic cosmology. Many of you never heard the terms Masonic cosmology. Yes, Masons have their own depiction of the cosmos, and it's nothing like what they're teaching your kids in school. Now, it's called a secret society because you will never know what they know, and that deals with all levels of reality. One of those big pieces to the puzzle is the true dimensions and layout of the cosmos. So what I'm telling you is just scratching the surface, and hopefully our children will continue the research that's been done by so many like myself, because they're not just gonna give you the secret. It has to be decoded, and for so long, many like myself have been doing just that. So you can't think for 1 minute that you learned in school and that your children is learning in school what the 32nd degree Mason knows. What good is it to be initiated amongst the ranks into secrecy to have the person get out of high school and college know the same thing you know, especially when dealing with cosmology, because cosmology deals with as above, so below. He who holds the secret to the cosmos or the creation basically holds the secrets to the creator. You have no identity of the creator outside of the creation. Anything outside of the creation would be what's called an idol or drawing, an illustration, and that's not a true representation of the source. That's why every man on earth tells you that man was made in the image of the creator. But when you go around the earth, you notice that man has done just the opposite, and that he has actually made the creator in his image. Therefore, every continent you go to have a creator that mirrors the people of that land. On the contrary, the creator isn't limited to the dimensions of man. And if the creator is the ruler, then the ruler cannot be measured. Please think about that. Because when we deal with Masons, we're dealing with the dimensions of the cosmos, the measurements of our reality. We're dealing with rulers and squares and compasses. And we also got to keep in mind that the word Mason is synonymous with the word traveler. Masons also call themselves traveling men. Now, think about that. If you were a rich person and you travel everywhere on the earth, and the top ranking Masons pride themselves in traveling everywhere on the earth, then hey, that would make you equivalent to those guys who are high ranking in these secretive groups, especially who pride themselves on traveling and going to places no man has been, such as Buzz Aldrin and most of your NASA astronauts. Now, let's get into space traveling, because when we talk about Masons being traveling men, you have to understand that one of the most biggest and most key secrets in Freemasonry is the cosmological secrets. Now, why would Freemasons have a cosmology that resembles ancient cosmology, but yet teach your kids about a globe? Why is everything that's spoken of about the heliocentric cosmology or the globular cosmologies is flooded with theories? None of it is factual. And I've proven so many times on this channel that the globe is scientifically impossible. So why would they teach it to us, and why would their cosmology resemble the cosmology that they taught us to mock? Understand that to hide something in plain sight is the best way to hide something, ladies and gentlemen. If I can hide something right in front of your face and you don't see it, you will never see it. Until somebody like me come along and open your eyes, you will never see it. And again, I'm just giving you a glimpse. So when we talk about Masons and we talk about the square and the compass, and we talk about the Masonic cosmology being the arch and the plane, we understand that the plane represents the earth. Earth intersects the center of the cosmos. Earth for so many years has been said to be the center of our reality. You see, you really can't measure infinity, but for so long a visual representation of the cosmos we live in has been an archdome enclosing a plane. In Egyptian cosmology or Kemetic cosmology, we understand that it was the sky goddess Nut arched over the earth god Geb, who is laid out representing that plane. This is why the bow and arrow is so revered. The shape of our cosmos later became deities like the god of Saturn, El, which is another personification of Saturn or balance. This is important to keep in mind that when we look at the arch and the plane, we're looking at the 0 and the 1, which is the binary code in most religions spoken of as the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. But the concept is a continuum. It goes much deeper, you see. When we're talking about the binary code, the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the 0 and the 1, it's the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the as above, so below, the microcosm, macrocosm, inhale, exhale, yin and the yang. It's the cosmological dance. And again, the 0 and the 1 been the beginning and the end, but there's no ending, only new beginnings. It's what's called a string theory. In other words, when you split a cell, it multiplies. So it's the code of infinity, and I'll be giving you a glimpse of that. So what do we mean, the 0 and the 1, beginning and the end? When you look at just the modern numerical scale we use today, our numbers start with 0 and they end in 0. The 0 and the 1, to be specific. So we count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which is again the 1 and the 0. We know that the numbers start off 0, 1, and they end 1, 0. And we're looking at this egg and the sperm mirroring itself, doing a cosmic dance of polarity to bring forth a trinity, or what is also called a string theory, represented by the kananga of the Dogon. So the Masonic square and compass is also a representation of that. Our cosmos is also a concept. It's a formula. It's also a rhythm, a vibration. These symbols are explanations of how everything we see or perceive as physical emanated from that which we say is invisible, and how that realm is the foundation of what we call the physical realm, and that they are not separate from each other. Just like a house, the roof of a house isn't separate from the foundation. We're also going to get into that because the shape of our house is the shape of the cosmos, and this is very important when we deal with string theory, as above, so below, the continuum or fractal side of our reality. Every inhale and exhale is a yin and a yang, and because of this threading, this dance, this polarity can sustain the byproduct of itself, which would be reality, or the trinity, the tree of life. Remember, goes back to the center of the cosmos. What we're looking at now when we deal with Masons is ancient cosmology in comparison to Masonic cosmology. We understand that a lot of ancient cosmology became the foundation for most of your early religious cosmological aspects, even when we deal with Genesis in the Bible. Now, I'm not going to be so repetitive. I just want to give us a thorough introduction into ancient cosmology and Freemasonic cosmology before diving into deeper aspects of the sacred geometry. So understand that the arch and the plane was represented in so many ways by the ancients as a form of our cosmos. It's simply a polarity that brings forth energy, just like man and woman is a polarity that gives forth new energy, new life in the form of a child. That's the polarity given the third dimensional aspect, or the Trinitarian, the sum, or the byproduct. Remember, bi is two. So the sum of that would be the Trinity. The Trinity has a physical representation when it deals with that polarity in our cosmos. So the polarity is the ground beneath your feet being an endless plane, which is the masculine or Geb in Kemetic cosmology. Simply the earth plane. Remember that when we say planet, we're saying plane enclosed in a net, or nut, because nut is the archdome in Kemetic cosmology. Remember, when we deal with ancient cosmology, we're dealing with us humans being enclosed in an archdome on a flat plane. This is contrary to the cosmology you grew up believing in of a globe. Now, they taught you that for a reason, but I'm giving you the cosmology that they're teaching themselves in secrecy. So they know the truth, but we know that the elites teach us the lies. But today I'm going to give us the truth. But you have to be willing to detach yourself from the lies, or at least be open-minded, because we're dealing with knowledge that isn't popular. So for so many years, from the beginning of humanity, humans have known the earth to be flat, and it can be scientifically proven, whereas the globe cannot. This is magical information to know, because me personally, it made the hairs on my skin stand up when I thought about the binary code. The idea of the earth plane being flat, stationary, with us enclosed in a spherical dome. And of course, there's movement amongst those luminaries, and we have what's called wandering stars and fit stars. Please research flat earth. You see, the stuff that's being mocked the most, it's the stuff you want to really research, because this is how they hide this stuff in plain sight. And if they can do that, you'll never find it as long as you're laughing at it. So stop laughing for a minute at flat earthers and come to understand how deep the rabbit hole goes. If the earth beneath you is an infinite plane as enclosed in an arch dome, that polarity is supported by a trinity. What is the trinity? Remember, when we say trinity, the root word is tree or tri, dealing with the three, which was the trident of the mother goddess, later became the trident of the devil. Remember that the devil is the diva in most old earth nature religions, because we say mother nature, and the deity to represent her for so long in the ancient world was simply a mother goddess carrying a trident. That trident is the letter 3 today, dealing with the trinity. All right, it's the M for mother. Remember that the M is the wave of life, the W, the wings of the angel, and the angel is Ma'at, representing the triangle, which also has that tri root. The triangel is Ma'at. Nature's balance is being hidden behind our own mental delusions of a chaotic cosmos. So the manipulators that give us the heliocentric cosmos are able to hide the truth and beauty of our reality by hypnotizing us with the solar systems and chaotic models that they give us when we're young. But today I'm here to give you the secrets. We have been living in a reality that's so beautiful. Balance. The creator is not clumsy. The creator doesn't have asteroid belts to hold his pants up and little vein planets and gas bubbles and balls. No, only man creates that clumsy and wasteful. The creator is balanced. You actually live in a realm of consciousness as much as you do a physical reality. There's no separation of physicality and what we call non-physicality, aka spirituality. The less dense realms make up the more physical realms, but there is no gravity. All things exist in a medium, and things that weigh more than that medium will fall or sink, and things that weigh less than it will rise. In our case, the medium is air, oxygen. Anything that's heavier than those oxygen particles, air particles, anything that weigh more than air will sink and stay stuck to the ground. If I remove the ground beneath you, you will continue to fall based on the medium of air. The moment you hit some water, your fall would be different. You would fall slower because water is a more dense medium. So we're able to manipulate those air particles just like birds and have flight. Remember that when we fly, we defy the law of gravity or the theory of gravity, because it's just a theory. It's not a fact. We go over this a lot on this channel. I want to give you some of these cosmological aspects in case we do have newbies tuning in. But let's stick back to the arching plane, because basically giving you the concept of string theory, how everything makes up everything. The Dogon describe it as the womb of all worlds, where all of these elements intersect with each other on a geographic scale and compositional scale, meaning where everything that exists is created in a certain realm on a certain frequency, but it's not bound to that. For example, when we talk about water, fire, and air, these are all of the elements that create reality. Just as well as there's different elements that intersect with each other to manifest things, there's also geographic energies doing the same. For example, north, south, east, west. Each element can be parallel to a direction, and where they intersect is where all of the directions intersect in one place, and that's at the center of the earth, where all compasses point. There's a magnetic energy. Now, that can be represented as simply darkness, or the pure thought that gave birth to everything we can perceive or visually see in the light. Remember that this play out as a continuum or string theory. Even our reality, when we create from darkness of the mind before we can physically touch it or see it in the light. I'm saying all of this to show you the yin and yang, the polarity or the duat of our reality that even gives birth to the Trinity. Everything comes from the darkness, have to go back to the darkness, and it plays out on all levels. For example, us creating from the mental darkness and bringing forth that into the light. But it started from the darkness first, the hidden things, the spiritual realm, before it come to what we call the physical realm. Now, are these realms separate? No. If you take away one realm, the entire cosmos will cease to exist. It's one thing. It's a symbiotic relationship. And if you take away any part of it, the balance of it all ceases to sustain itself. And in a blink of an eye, it no longer exists. It's a very intricate thing, the beginning and the end, the zero and the one, the alpha and omega, the darkness and the light, because all creation stories start in darkness and somehow a light switch came on. You see, that's how all inventions take place, or new ideas. You close your eyes and out of the darkness, your mind have an explosion. You see, today we have the technology to detect the way thought would visually look. And if you could look at your brain when you're having a new idea, it's an explosion. It would be the CGI representation of a new universe being born in NASA's CGI fake world, what they create on computers. They're basically showing you the human mind or the conscious universe that you live in. And this universe was spoke of by the ancients. It's more of a realm as it is a place. It's a thought. It's pure consciousness that we live in. But when you get so caught up in the fact that you can physically touch it or detect it via the nervous system or touch, sight, and smell, you can get lost in the sensory aspects of defining it as opposed to knowing what it is from the subconscious. So we reach a place where everything we can prove take us somewhere to something we can't prove. So with all the mathematics of all sciences and all of the facts that make up even flat earth cosmology, being that we can prove that it's flat, we can prove even the dome. But what we can't prove is what existed before the darkness. You see, when you look at the night sky, you're looking at the background, the primordial source of reality. Nothing is higher than the night sky. Not the stars, not the sun or the moon. It is the background of all reality. Again, if you look at the binary code, it would be the egg or the cosmic womb, the divine feminine, the zero, which gave birth to the one. All numbers are birthed from zero. Zero represents the unknown, the mystery, the night sky. This night sky is the seat of the creator, the very essence of all there is. And we have to go back to it every second, every day. What do you mean, Brother Sanchez? Every time you blink your eye, it's a polarity of seeing and not seeing. It's the sustainer. It feeds you. Oxygen keeps you alive on a microcosm, but on a macrocosm, It's that darkness that sustains all. That's the primordial sea, the ocean of new. And new is N-E-W, spelled N-U in ancient Kemetic spelling. And remember that all new things come from the darkness. We see mother goddesses such as Nuwa and Nu, sky goddesses such as Nut, representing the night sky. This is because night is knit. Knit is the weaving together of all there is, the glue. It's not gravity, there's stillness. There's a stillness to that darkness. That polarity can be looked at as silence and non-silence, or seeing and not seeing, meaning darkness and light. Also stillness and movement, silence and music. Remember that music is birthed from silence, just like movement is birthed from stillness, or numbers, or what you perceive as amounts is born from zero, which is infinity. But you've been taught that zero is nothing, but zero is new things. There are no such thing as nothing, only new things. And this is string theory, that every ending is a new beginning. There's no such thing as an ending. For a person that said life ends, they're not wrong. And a person that said life begins when you die, they're not wrong, because there's something new that happens after this. And there's new things. There's no such thing as nothing, only new things, because energy can't cease to exist. There's always a place for consciousness to be and an experience for the soul. Whenever a set of eyes close, a new set of eyes open. So even when you transition and these eyes close and you take your last breath with this body, you take your first breath with another body and open your eyes for the first time all over again. Because of this duat, this microcosm, macrocosm, this spiritual you and physical you that can't cease to exist. So the physical you is just a vehicle or a shell to give birth to the spiritual you over and over again. And this is represented by the Masonic bow tie as well. So when we say tie, we're talking about something that's even. All right. In a race, if two people tie, neither wins. And that's called balance. Because if one of them wins, then the scale is leaning to one side. The yin is out of sync with the yang. But when it's 50-50, in other words, when a man and woman have a relationship where they walk side by side as opposed to one walking in front of the other, it's balance. It's a perfect polarity. When you look at a battery of negative and positive, 50-50, then the trinity that is birth is energy. So the energy is the trinity. It's the sum of the polarity. This is important because when you look at the Masonic square and compass, it's showing you how our cosmos is able to constantly create endless energy, and how you being a miniature cosmos will do the same, and that you have always been and always will be. It goes back to that microcosm, macrocosm I mentioned earlier. Every time you blink your eyes, you're tapping into that darkness. And this happens on a miniature scale in the form of blinking. It happens on a miniature scale in the form of thinking, because you're going into darkness, and in that darkness, let there be light, a new idea. This is why on TV, they show you the cartoon characters having an idea with the light bulb coming above their head. That light bulb appears out of nowhere, out of darkness. It is the new idea of the creator, which is you. Now, the grand architect is the one that created the earth you live upon. So this is called the cosmic egg. And again, if you look at the arch and the plane, you're also looking at the bow and the arrow. Remember that the arrow is able to take flight based on its pulling its energy from the center, just like every individual pulls its energy from the center of the earth, from what we call the North Pole. Every human being in microcosm put their energy from the center, hooked up to an umbilical cord, aka a miniature North Pole, which was hooked to their mother or their nut. Remember, the night sky being darkness. In darkness, this life was created, and it was being fed from the center. Every time you inhale and exhale, it's new life, meaning that Inhaling and exhaling sends oxygen into the blood. And so every time you inhale oxygen into the lungs, every cell of your body inhale that oxygen with you in microcosm. So in other words, each and every last one of your cells can be looked at as an individual body that's breathing in and out every time you inhale and exhale. Everything is happening as a continuum in microcosm, macrocosm, just like the puppeteer that controls the puppet. When they move their arm in macrocosm, the puppet moves its arm in microcosm. From darkness, the Creator had a thought, and the ground beneath your feet is that thought. It's a real thought. Now, science want to disconnect you from the realness of the Creator, because the Creator is hidden, and the Creator reveals itself through its creation, which is not hidden. So understand that this duality, the hidden and not hidden, is what gives birth to everything there is, even yourself. When you look at a human, you can visually see them, but you can't see their organs. There's a hidden part to that human that's keeping them alive. So this science can be seen in so many ways, and this is called string theory or continuum theory, how everything plays out in this sort of cosmic code or formula, as above, so below, just like you see in the ancient cosmology, the Masonic cosmology, and the Masonic square and plane, as above, so below, with the compass being sort of an arrow pointing upward and the plane being an arrow pointing downward, representing that polarity. When they marry themselves, there's new life. So if you look at the center of that, you will see a diamond. And there's a G there. Some say that it means God. Sure, it means girl, because all life come through the womb as a result of this marriage. Remember, Nut is the primordial source. So when we talk Alpha and Omega, remember that the zero is the end all be all. The science or the literature that's associated with balance was always spoken of and given to us under a feminine deity such as Ma'at. When we talk Earth, we'd say Mother Nature. Trinity is synonymous with center. This is why the Trinity of life, or the trio of life, or the trident of life, or what you call the tree of life, exists where? At the center of the earth and at the center of all ancient cosmologies. This tree of life is representative of the divine womb, or the yoni, that even all humans come out of, their mother's womb, which is at the center of her body and between her legs. So this position of the center is very significant, as I pointed out earlier, because this represents the all-seeing eye, or Polaris, the pole star. Remember that a polarity is a yin and a yang, a duality, but also the centering of something. Because when you talk a polarity, when it deals with energy, you're talking negative and positive. And because of this negative and positive, you're able to have a centering or a grounding, which is the energy. It's the left and the right that gives birth to the center, but it's not really giving birth to the center. It's exposing the center, because all there was the center, represented by the darkness, the canvas. So centering is a verb as well, which simply means leveling or balance. The crazy thing about the word level is when you turn it around, it still says level. It also have the word Eve inside, dealing with balance or evenness. So just keep in mind that the duality reveals the Trinity. Left and right reveals the center. The arch and the plane reveals the source of them both, which is the magnetic tree of life at the center, from which it all started and which it all needs to be fed and sustained, just like a baby is being fed from the center of the belly. The umbilical cord feeds the baby and it's hooked to the mother. This happens in darkness before the baby comes to light. Same thing with creation. The North Pole can be looked at as the umbilical cord to the earth, and it feeds us all. It's synonymous with the G at the center of the square and compass. This is where all compasses point to, the great mother at the center of the ancient cosmos. Remember, this is symbolic in microcosm, macrocosm. We're in a continuum because we get energy by centering things or acting out that polarity in ritual form that the Creator originally acted out in a big form. The Creator said, you know what, yin and yang will create new life. And ever since that trinity took place on a macro, everything we do on a micro would play out in this formula, in this ritual. For example, there's a up and a down, a left and a right, a hot and a cold. Even when you look at the human body, you have a left and a right hand, and each human look at themselves based on the duat. So for example, picture yourself looking at your woman or your significant other eye to eye. Both of you are looking at each other in reverse, the mirror effect. This is the duat of our reality. And a mirror effect is very important when you deal with Masonic architecture and Masonic building. For example, the Washington Monument, which gives you this mirror effect to speak a language to the Mason of as above, so below. For example, this pyramid in Tennessee, which is built by Freemasons, gives you the same effect. This is so common in the world, and this is why we have big bodies of water by certain architecture. Remember that the root word of architecture itself is arch, dealing with the first architect, which was the most high, or what's called the grand architect, even in Masonic religion. So we will get into Masonic etiquette, Masonic religion and customs, and talk a little bit more about this grand architect deity, which is a compositional deity, a blended deity of all of the world deities. Many of you who are familiar with Freemasonry have saw the Masonic symbol, the G, being in the center of the sphere, surrounded by all of the religions of the world. Now, if you're not Masonic, they give you this same crap in the form of the globe with all of the religions around it. That represents the true Masonic deity that they actually worship. And worship is not a spooky form of these people worshiping some devil. We'll get into actually what's going on in the future. We're going to do this series in parts so that we be very thorough. Now, this deity is a representative of every deity in the world. Remember that Freemason is an international brotherhood, and there are Freemasons from all religions and all continents. And Freemasons run the earth because their ability to unite in secrecy and rule all of us by giving us the very religions that shapes our values and life and our behavior, customs, morality, traditions, and everything that makes you you. If you live your whole life in a society that's ran by Freemasons, such as the USA, hey, let's just go ahead and be honest. The entire world is ran by these elite groups, secret groups. Their ability to hide the universal truth while giving us the polarized versions of it keeps the world divided and perpetuates their ability to conquer based on that division. They are able to stay united based on understanding the universal truth of nature. Again, this is why it's so important to give us all the globes, because what comes along with the globes is belief in theoretical sciences that's more argumentative, which leads to division, as opposed to universal truths, which will bring forth symbols that will unite us all. So in other words, there's a dialogue that the elite give us when we're born, that they associate this dialogue with the symbols that govern our lives. And really, when we get rid of the dialogue they give us and start looking at the symbols by shutting our eyes and ignoring what they told us the symbol is, and seeing that the ancients had these same symbols before these imposters gave them to us with their dialogues. And when we go back and see what the ancients said about these very same symbols that they're re-giving us today, and they're recreating their own matrix, they're building a world within a world. Actually, the world you live in is so balanced and so perfect, but the world you believe in is the one you're trapped in based on the dialogue that the magicians give you with the symbols. So the symbols they give you with disconnect you from nature based on that dialogue. So today what we're going to do here is give you a whole new dialogue, or not give you a dialogue. Therefore, you can see, because to truly see is to close your eyes. Remember that the blind man sees more than the one that can see. What goes through your physical eyes can be misinterpreted by the mind or the third eye. The third eye is the one that balances the scales, and it's located directly in the center of the brain. And most Hindus put a third eye or a dot on their forehead to represent this. Now, when they do that, if you draw a lines from that third eye to your two eyes, you will get a triangle representing Ma'at, because she balances the scales. On a macrocosm, that would be the North Pole. She is the North Pole magnetic energy. This energy does have a consciousness. It's a balance energy, a neutral energy, hence the term neutron. Where is the neutron? At the center of the cell, where the yin meets the yang and the polarity marries itself. Remember, this is just an introduction. We're going to go deep into the rabbit hole as I reveal to you the secrets of Freemasonry. So to understand balance as it deals with the ancient cosmology, and why the tree of life is often depicted as Ma'at, the T of life. Remember that the capital T is only balance and scales, and when you outline it, you get the Trinity angel herself, Ma'at. She is the capital T, or the hammer that is banged by the judge, the hammer that was carried by Thor. This hammer is known to keep order. The sound of it is very thunderous, and this became the god Thor, which is the god of thunder. This is acted out on a microcosm level when you go in the courtroom and the judge bangs the hammer, which is shaped like Ma'at, or the capital T. And this hammer produces a very distinct sound, and it's known to keep order. This is a form of hypnotization. Remember, sound is very important. Sound was the vibration that led to physicality, or what we perceive as physicality. Remember that the darkness had a voice, and this darkness spoke light into existence. Sound is feminine. It travels like a serpent. Sound wave is similar to a sine wave. The word sine became the word sin. So you weren't born in sin. You were born into sine, or sound waves, which govern everything. It's this rhythm that gives birth to everything there is. And the most least dense sound is visually represented by darkness or silence. Now, silence itself is a sound. And I go into this in a lot of my videos on Bro Sanchez Live. If you ask someone what they hear when it's quiet, they'll tell you, I hear silence, or nothing, or new thing, because in silence, one is able to create. It's definitely a resonant sound, but it's so light that you can't hear it. There's no such thing as nothing. Even when we deal with sound, there's just a level where we reach, where we fail to perceive the most subtle of all sounds, dealing with the voice that set the whole creation process in the beginning, and that vibration that sustains it now. Now, a macrocosm of that will be the energy at the North Pole, which does have a sound to it. All right, which they call the sound of the cosmos, or the sound of the universe. Now, this binary code, let's get back to it, because it's very significant. It's basically string theory, or if you think about a woman that braids something, or a three-man weave in basketball, or what they give you for serious, or even if you look at the symbol here that's called the Merovingian reptilian bloodline, you can see this Kananga, or this string theory representation, or the square and compass. If you outline this, you get a diamond. The same thing, if you outline a Christian cross, you get a diamond, or a crest, or a cross. The cross is the crest. So I'm giving you so much here. I want you to keep it all together. If you look at this symbol in front of you, you will see that the cross is at the center where the shield is. Now, I talk about the shield and sword because that's another form of the covenant. The covenant is the yin and yang, the arch and the plane, the covenant between a man and a woman when they give birth to the new life, marriage that gives birth to the family. So this covenant on a macro is the arch and the plane. The ark of the covenant is basically the arch of the covenant where the heavens above meets the underworld below. The earth splits the entire cosmos at the center, and life takes place on this stage. This is string theory. If you look at a bow tie, the first half would be the heavens above, the tie in the middle would be the earth plane, and the bottom half would be the underworld. Simple as that. So when you look at the square and compass, or nut and geb, or 0 and 1, or sperm cell entering an egg, or the symbol of balance, it's this same concept of the duality giving birth to a Trinitarian aspect. The fact that you take a positive end of a battery, marry it with a negative end, and the two can give energy. That's the sum or the son of the father and mother. Okay? That's the zenith, the climax. And remember that the zenith or the climax is the peak, and the peak is the top of the pyramid or the Trinity. The Masons are hiding something very powerful, and that is our true cosmology and the fact that we are in a realm of consciousness and you can't cease to exist. No matter where you are, there you are. Only thing that exists is the center, which is representative of that darkness. Whenever you find yourself in darkness, the only thing to do is to cut the light on, and there you are again, participating in this duat ritual, giving birth to new things. The Creator gave birth to the creation. Those who hide the creation from you or lie to you about the creation also lie to you about the true nature of that which created it. So those of you who hide the mysteries of the creation from you also hide the mysteries of the Creator from you. You are a miniature representative of that macrocosm, that great divine source. When you look at the tip of the square and compass, it's the peak. It's the all-seeing eye, or the third eye. This is a part of yourself, brothers and sisters. This means to assess all things in your reality. Your inability to do this is why you participate in their matrix. When you take those symbols they give you and the dialogue they give you, and you look at them with your left and right eyes, and you never close your eyes, and you never do your own investigation, because the root word of investigation is invest, and the root word of question is quest. When you fail to do these things, you take no journey, and wherever you are is where someone else wants you to be. That person is often the one who's already taken that journey, whether it be mental, physically, or spiritually. The fact that they taken that journey, they can trap you in one spot. Because if they tell you, I've taken that journey, being an astronaut, and they say, I know what's out there. Remember, Masons are traveling men. They control the world based upon travel. And the early Masons control the world based upon travel as they ventured out into new lands and took control of the people. And then over the sciences and cosmologies over time, they hid the true nature of the creation and created zombies today that takes everything the elite gives them, hook, line, and sinker. Masons are traveling men, not because they physically travel. That's only one aspect. They mentally travel to places the most human never go. They spiritually travel into dark areas the most human would never go. They know about astral projection. They understand that the hidden part of the human is directly interwoven with the physical part of the human. And if you neglect any, you're not practicing balance, and you're not balancing your own scales. If you're in chaos, lack of balance, which is chaos, because heaven simply means even, The third eye is representative of Ma'at, which is the great balancer, the grand architect. And Masons revere the grand architect. In other words, if you look at the Masonic cosmos, it's a plagiarization of the ancient cosmos. And if you look at the Masonic grand architect, it's a plagiarization of the mother goddess in the ancient world, or what we call Mother Nature, Mother Earth today. It's synonymous with Yoni worship in the East, the black cube worship in the East as well, which is another form of this darkness in this womb. It's a form of the third eye, which is the hidden one, because I can physically see your two eyes, but we all know we have a pineal gland, but we can't see it. It's hidden behind our flesh and our skull, but it's there. And its role is more important than the two eyes that you do have, because this is where all things enter the brain, and based upon how the pineal gland interprets the information is ultimately what you really see. So it's not how you visually see your reality. It's how you interpret what you visually see. This is why all of us see the same reality, but there's so many interpretations, which cause so much division. Division can be looked at as divided vision. There's a unified aspect to all of the polarities that keeps us divided, and that is ignoring the dialogue and going back to silence. What creates the division with the symbol is the text associated with the symbol. The symbol comes from the subconscious. No symbol predates the cosmos, that of the grand architect. You can do nothing other than that which was done by the Most High. We can only create within creation. So everything we do is an echo of that original creator. We're actually individual interpretations of that one source, and we are actually the vehicles by which the one creator used to explore its one creation. The creator has a polarity. The creator exists as one being, and also as each and every last one of us, and everything with the consciousness within the creation, because the creator can't be separate from its thought. There is nothing physical. When the creator created creation, there was nothing to pick up, because nothing didn't exist. The only thing exists was nothingness, or nothingness. What we call nothing is new thing. Remember, new is the primordial source, the darkness behind the stars, the subconscious which gave birth to the conscious, the beginning and end, but the beginning is inside of the end. Everything in between is the experience. When you close the book, the journey is over, and you open another one. That's called string theory. Is literally that simple. But the microcosm, macrocosm of string theory is what makes it so intricate and very sacred. This dance plays out on so many ways. If you think about what I told you earlier, blinking your eyes would be a microcosm form of sleeping, and a macrocosm of sleeping would be dying, where you close these eyes for good and open completely new eyes. This is why after an eclipse we have new moons. Remember that the moon phases is a macrocosm of an eclipse. If you looked at the moon like an eyeball blinking throughout the day, that would be an eclipse, and the moon phases over time would be more of a sleeping at night. Another thing that's important to understand is that the Trinitarian aspect of reality is synonymous with the darkness. And this is why any goddesses associated with the Trinity, any deities associated with the Trinity in antiquity was always feminine. This is because the X chromosome itself is the original Trinity. It's a form of the hourglass, and again, the Masonic bow tie or string theory. The X is the Kananga. It's this whole formula. So when you look at the X chromosome and the shape of it being that this is what brings new life into a creation through the woman, who's the X chromosome. And no matter if you're the man or the woman, you come through the woman. Just like the man and the woman all live on Mother Earth, and we all look up at the night sky, which was depicted as feminine. There's a feminine essence to this whole reality, a grandmother type of energy, but its polarity is a form of its becoming a lesser God. For example, like they say, the Most High in the Bible had to reduce himself into the flesh to come to earth. It goes back to the concept that I gave you that the ancients had, that the one creator that created this creation also created every human you see partaking in the creation, therefore isn't separate of the creation if we're all literally thought. So what I'm saying is this: a balanced thought is the most divine act of creation. That was the primordial thing that started it all. That's the Ma'at concept. The most balanced thought is simply darkness. There's really no such thing as physicality in the way that you think, where there's another realm that you can exist in where things are not physical. Everything is made of matter, even the realms you think are non-physical are physical. If there's a realm you can exist upon that's so-called non-physical, you would have to question what you call physicality, the act of touching, feeling. It's a nervous system. You mean to tell me that a person without a nervous system can't partake in a physical reality? So what you have to think about is what I'm telling you here. Nothing is physical. Everything is spiritual. You are in a spiritual realm right now. How can I prove what I'm saying? You say a dream is a non-physical realm. Yet when you're in a dream, everything is physical to the touch. You say the spirit realm is a non-spiritual realm. Yet you say spirits are dancing there and they're walking streets of gold. That would be physical attributes. If spirits can touch one another and feel it, then are they non-physical? Seems to me any realm you assume becomes physical under this logic. Gas is still matter, even the most less dense form of matter being the vibration of sound. The matter that's non-detectable is still matter. And remember, matter is mother. Mother is darkness or magnetic energy, silence, Zen, infinity. Now, the symbol 8 is the symbol of infinity because, again, it's the X chromosome. It's the hourglass, and it's constantly being flipped because change is the only thing that stays the same. And this is another way of saying that when you take yin and put it with yang, you get yin yang. You get something new. This is string theory. It's very simple. Think about the dream state, how the dark realm can only be accessed by a duality or a marriage. In other words, for you to access darkness, your bottom eyelid has to marry your top eyelid. And when this happens, your eyes do an eclipse ritual. And in that darkness comes all things. Everything. You open your eyes and see the chair you sitting on, the microphone I'm talking on. Someone had to create it from out of darkness and you couldn't physically touch it. So the seed of everything there is exists in the cosmic womb, or the darkness, the fabric, the thread, this night or this knitting behind the stars. Remember, night is Nut. Knit is another name of this goddess. She represents this primordial source, meditation. When you close your eyes and you form your body into a triangular shape, just like the cosmos, and you close your eyes to go back to that primordial source, and you create new things. When you say new, remember there's a new moon after every eclipse. So when you open your eyes, there's a new idea after every meditation or every thought process. I want to stop for a minute and ask you guys to take a minute and hit that like button if you like what I'm doing. And also subscribe to my other channel, Brother Sanchez Live, where you can catch up on where I'm teaching this stuff live in detail, really giving you extra stuff that you're going to need to see this cosmic code and to meditate on these symbols by understanding, awakening the third eye. Remember, the third eye is the tip, the zenith. The top of the triangle is the feather of the Trinity angel, being Ma'at, and this is the one that keeps the balance. So when you think of Ma'at with the feather on her crown at the center, and at the center of the earth is where all the balance is being sustained, all compasses are pointing to that magnetic energy, that vortex. Because life, the balance of life, the continuation of life is sustained by the magnetic attraction between the woman seducing the man into that vortex in between her legs in the center. So all of this take place at the center, and at the center there's darkness, there's silence. So just like we hear mind, body, and spirit, and we think Trinity, we also should hear darkness, silence, and stillness, and think Trinity as well. Just like in the beginning of the biblical Genesis, there was darkness and silence, and the light that penetrated the darkness was the very sound that spoke the light into existence. The light existed before the visual representation of the light being the brightness and the spectrums of the rainbow. It existed as that sound vibration that spoke it into existence, just like the mother existed before the sun. So when the light rays of the sun shines, they penetrate the darkness of the cosmos, just like the sperm of a man penetrates the egg of a woman. There's your binary code again. So the ancestors describe the earth as the cosmic egg, and we know that all life lives inside of eggs at the center, what's called the yolk, not on the surface of the egg as they give us in heliocentrism. They flipped us inside out and broke the covenant. So covenant is synonymous with 10. 10 is 1 and 0, sperm and egg cell, binary code. The keyhole and the key. But remember, the keyhole existed before the key. It was the keyhole that existed that even gave you the shape of the key. The key is fashioned and shaped by the shape of that hole. So it's the keyhole that gives birth to the key. Now, this can be looked at as the question and the answer. The question existed before the answer because the question is the quest. Without the quest, there is no answer. If you never ask the question, you never get the answer. So without the quest, there is no answer. Just like without the darkness, there is no light. Darkness is the background that allows light to shine. So it's the background of the stars, and it exists above the stars because it's the canvas of the Most High. The art that's on the canvas will never have the artist's view. So the all-seeing eye or Polaris concept is the artist's view of the grand architect that's spoken of in Freemasonry. It became the dove in early Christianity that sits in between the father and son. But you notice it's where the third eye sits in between the left and right eye of the human, because if I show you something and you don't think about it, I can deceive you. In other words, again, it's not what you see out of your eyes, it's how you interpret what you see out of your eyes. So if I take you to the wilderness and I say, what do you see? And you say, hey, man, I see a bunch of trees. Look at that tree. Look at that tree. Look at that tree. Look at that tree. Well, you see a bunch of individual things as opposed to the person who think in a more holistic way with their subconscious and third eye open. They would see the same thing. But if I ask them what they see, they would say, I only see one forest as opposed to many trees. So it's not what you see, it's how you interpret your reality. And when you talk about seeing holistic, it's dealing with string theory. String theory is the way humans were meant to see this reality through the eyes of the one that created it. So the way we see the reality today, being a damn clumsy ass ball floating through a vacuum of darkness through clumsy objects that's floating without a consciousness and no projection, just wobbling on with no sense of purpose and no foundations, shows that man have created a theoretical matrix universe cosmology other than what we see in our real reality. You don't feel the earth spinning at more than 1,000 miles per hour, yet you believe it based on programming. You need to understand why the ancients knew something that even the Masons are hiding from you. But again, this video is just an introduction. We haven't even stuck our head inside of the rabbit hole. This is just to get you familiar before I go deeper. Understanding that the third eye is the seat of your reality, the one that interprets what you see with your two eyes. It's not what you see with your eyes. It's what you interpret what you see. So if there's a mediator in between what you see with your eyes and how you interpret it, the interpreter then becomes the controller of your reality. And they have hijacked the seat of your soul, which is the pineal gland, which connects you with the cosmos. You cannot connect with the cosmos if you don't understand the secrets of the cosmos, which has been hidden from you by those who are interpreting the cosmos to you with space programming and CGI deception and brainwashing and theories and puppets and different Masons. These guys call themselves traveling men because they have traveled physically hidden areas of this earth, such as the magnetic North Pole and the hidden lands that I speak of on previous videos. Check those out. But not so much as the physical travels, but the mental and spiritual travels that I revealed to you with the occult teachings and the darkness and the divine feminine, the cosmic mother, the sacred geometry, the revelations. When you say revelation, it means revealing. A veil is what's worn during marriage by the bride who drags the tail. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to check out all of my series I did on Bro Sanchez Live on the occult and moon teachings, as well as the Vedic black hole sun, showing you that polarity and how it relates to eclipses, Rahu and Ketu, the man and woman, Batman and Robin, moon and sun. There's a way we are supposed to see our reality, and we were already programmed by the Creator how we're supposed to see our reality. Just like all of the animals, they see this reality different than you, and they interact with it different than you. They do things that we would consider superhuman, things we said that the ancients done, all because of the way they perceive the same reality we're in. But it's not the reality, it's how you interpret it, which will create what you see on the surface. If you really believe that the Creator is chaotic based on the way you were programmed to see this reality, then as above, so below. If we look up at them stars and literally think that they are nebulas exploding and planets clashing and a clumsy Creator that creates things without foundations, and that man is smarter than the Creator because we need space programs to help the Creator deflect meteors out of the way so it don't destroy its own creations, because the Creator they give you is so dumb, it disconnects you from the true Creator, which is Mother Nature. She's so balanced, and the circuit of the sun and moon was described as the yin and yang. The sun and moon makes their circuit around Polaris, the pole star. It's called a pole star or the polarity star because it's where Ma'at sits and balances the scales. Remember that pole star is equivalent of Ma'at's feather, which is the all-seeing eye, or the darkness. When you look at that darkness, a lot of ancients believe that the stars were created first, and that the highest of them all, being the North Star, is the direct link between that darkness. In other words, the first son of the darkness, the first visual light representation of the non-visible darkness, which is the creator of all. You see, there's no identity of the creator. All of these personifications and deities that we worship today were what the secret societies gave the masses to keep the polarity perpetuating itself so that we never move past the polarity to the actual pole. The root word of polarity is pole. And the one that balances the scales is the actual pole, or ma'at. And each scale is a polarity of each other, sun and moon. But the energy is the trinity, the actual pole, not the polarity. When we get caught up in the polarity and not the point, in other words, when we get caught up in the dialogue behind all of the symbols, instead of getting to the point, which is the cosmological meaning of the symbol, that which have no words to explain it, the sacred geometry, the dimensions, the outline of the symbols. For example, when you outline a cross, you get the crest, which is the origination of the cross. Because before Jesus, before the cross, the sacred geometry that predated it was the crest, the shield. Again, the shield and the sword concept, I go into the whole coat of arms being the bee goddess, the shield and the sword being the 0 and the 1, the binary code. We know that the 0 is absorbing because it's the female, the vagina or the Venus, and the male is the penis. So the female is the Venus and the male is the penis, or the penetrator, the penetrator. We don't absorb. We penetrate that which absorbs. Just like the sunlight penetrates the darkness, which absorbs, okay? And it's that absorbing which is the primordial source, or the darkness. It's the question mark. You never know what's going to come out of that womb. Even when you're giving birth to a child, whether it be man or woman, you don't know what the child going to look like, what personality, none like that. When you talk about the darkness, you go there every night when you sleep and you create. The string theory of it all is the fact that everything is everything, and what the creator done, we're many expressions of that, creating our own world. If you're not creating your own world, someone is creating a world for you, and that is the definition of the matrix. Many among you are living in a world that was generated, CGI program, a world that you can't physically touch, but you can only believe in, a world that disconnects you from who you are, Neo. And I'm here to bring you back the one truth. So when you arrange the words Neo, you get one. Universe is one verse. So why do we all remain divided by seeing it and interpret it in so many different ways? Because we fail to unify based on that one truth. But the elite have unified based on that one truth, so they have the one up on us. I will be revealing the secrets of the elite as we move deep into this rabbit hole. But at this point, I have to end the video, and we'll pick back up on part 2. There's so much that we can't cram it all. So join me for part 2. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, new uploads every Thursday. Peace and much love.